it to the next one. Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about image and appearance. And a wise man once said, "The soul does not think without a picture." And maybe that makes sense when you think in terms of things like similes or metaphors, words that are supposed to be representatives for something else. And the reason why I'm going in this direction is because it's been said that the symbols of power are still power. So when I talk about image, again, I'm not just talking about a picture. I'm talking about the set of beliefs that surround a person, place, or thing. And this could be everything from expectations to assumptions to what's been told to what's been promised. It could be any number of things, really. But when I speak of image and appearance here, I'm thinking specifically from a marketing perspective, in the sense that the people and the audiences and the markets that already exist are what already exists. And they're already here. So it's a matter of connecting to and working with, let's say. It's not about, I don't want things to get confused here to think that appearance is about something like persuasion. This is not persuasion, because if this was persuasion, we might begin to say, well, why are you resisting? Or who is resisting, right? Like the notion of overcoming objections. What I'm saying is, I'm not mistaking image and appearance for selling something or trying to push something, even though there's a reason why we consider persuasion rhetoric, or rhetoric persuasion, maybe. And that's because even the symbols for power are still power, but that's not the same as using something to your advantage, as in an assertion, right? It's the difference between maybe waiting for an audience coming to you, or you saying, hey, I know who they are. It's a matter of bringing it to them because I think they will accept it based on these delineations, and all culture works this way, right? It's a mediation and a triangulation between people's desires and what they don't desire, the language they use, the laws and systems around. And I don't mean to get lost in the weeds here or too far away from ground zero of image and appearance, but I'm trying to make clear that this isn't about persuasion or attempting to manipulate, because this is about affect. And what I mean here is affect, not effect. And again, it's more like brand and marketing than sales, right? Because image and appearance is an assertion, right? You're putting it forward. It's more like poetry or music in its matter of imagery, in the sense that one is putting something forward, one is asserting something, right? Again, not persuasion, not overcoming objections. What if there's actually nothing to object to? How do you leverage yourself in such a manner? And appearance is the number one way in which you can do it before anyone else has a chance to judge you. You can already be saying what you mean to be saying with your appearance. And I know a lot of people get confused here, and maybe they even mean well when they say things like, don't judge a book by its cover, right? But at the same time, that's exactly what everyone does. And I'm really beginning to think that people who say don't judge a book by its cover have never read a book, like they've never actually looked in a book. And maybe this sounds like judgment, judging a book by the dumb things it says. I don't mean to be mean here. I mean, everyone cares about their image, everyone cares about their appearance, and there's numbers and data and statistics to back this. Things like, if people think it's shallow or silly or a waste of time, it's like, no, according to the fashion industry, it's worth about $1.7 trillion dollars. And according to the cosmetic industry, it's about $102.8 billion dollars. I don't know if the previous trillions accounts for that cosmetic industry, but regardless, you can see that image and fashion is big. And yes, a lot of those people in those industries are women, and the products are meant for women, but at the same time, it's still big business. It's a big part of people's lives the world over, from the bottom of the social hierarchy all the way to the top. So it's no small thing that people use what they can. Again, the symbols of power still being close to power or approximations thereof. There's a reason why everyone still uses it. So I spoke of this from a marketing perspective, that idea of, here's something, it's either for you or it's not, and then we draw a standard and a line, and if it's not for you, that's fine, and it can be for the people that it's for. Everything else around appearance, behavior, and communication, in this case, appearance or image, right? It would be a question of, for an individual or a corporation, it comes down to, is what you've been doing working? Is it sustainable? Does this work well with your goals and aims? Does this account with your future and your, I don't know, wherever you're trying to go in life, right? But what's guaranteed is whatever you want, someone or something else has it, or there's some interim step, excuse me, that accounts for it or involves it or these other people, whether that's going to school, getting a job, any number of things. In terms of what people are desiring and wanting and how they think about themselves in the world, it's not just people's idealisms, it's their guiding light, it's their values, it's how they think of themselves in their mind, whether that's using poetic language or simple language, strong, weak, brave, fearless, any number of words. So when it comes to an individual or a brand or a company or any number of things, even a nation's, let's say, when it comes to their appearance and their image, you could say something like, it's not about persuasion, right? Because persuasion sounds like something like rhetoric or manipulation. And these aren't questions of like it's some hack or some trick. It's a question of what actually works. So it's not so much about persuading, like the notion of selling. I'm basically drawing a line between marketing and selling, because selling is like the idea of you're overcoming objections. Why do they have objections? Well, maybe a strong and clear enough image was not put forward to begin with, because this is what marketing is about. It's about finding the correct signs, symbols, tones, language, colors, communications to then draw lines. Because basically, audiences already exist, people already exist. All the audience for the moment already exists. They're for today and tomorrow. They're here. They're not going anywhere. They're not changing. So it's not like one is inventing people who aren't there. You're not. No one's. No one's selling or performing to a just a non-existent audience. No one wastes their time, right? People spend a lot of money on marketing and brand consultations because you know, it's otherwise a lot of money to just throw into a pit and hope things work out. Gone are the days of just sending everyone a flyer or an email, right? Those were the easy days. It was much easier when there were much more centralized channels of communication, and then there were only a few ways that people disseminated information. Sure, advertising was, you could say, everywhere, and technically it still is, isn't it? But at the same time, things have become much more sophisticated. Getting people's attention is much harder because of the decentralization of communication, such as central broadcasts like television and even cable. Now we have infinite, channels essentially with social media, and there's as many channels and brands as there are people. So this is coming right back around to my point on the differences of marketing and sales, right? The idea of one's trying to cause an effect, one's trying to push someone into buying, the other one's already exuding its affect, it's already drawing, it's an attraction, right? One is like pushing something onto someone, the other one is basically, hey, this is a flower and it's for bees, right? Or this is a here's what it is and here's what it's about and here's what it's for. If you don't want to be a part of it, funny enough, I guess Seth Godin, American Marketer, comes to mind because and I guess I've criticized him in some of my work, but at the same time, he's absolutely right when he points out and says things like, shun the non-believer, right? That's exactly what marketing does. It says, hey, you're in or you're out. And so when it comes to appearance and image, which matters to everyone actually, right? Because I know it's funny, don't judge a book by its cover, but that's exactly what I do as a human being. I discern what's good, what's bad, what's true, what's false, what's real, what's not. So the question comes down to not persuasion, but affect, results. Are you getting the results you want with your image, with your appearance, your behavior, your communication, whatever your goals in life, whatever your goals may be, why ever they may be, right? That's not my question or my concern as either a marketer or an image consultant. Here at Sharper Pen Image Consulting, I, Zach Markowski, care about helping you get to where you want to go in life and leveraging your appearance, your behavior, and your communication is the best way you can do that. In this case, we're focusing on image, we're focusing on appearance, right? Controlling for outcomes before they even happen, because if you already know what's going to happen, it's one less thing to concern yourself about. But at the same time, experience is exactly like fashion itself. What worked yesterday isn't going to work tomorrow. An experience that proved relevant yesterday eventually meets its demise tomorrow when whatever you learned about it stops working, and then you have to switch, then you have to change. And again, that's why Sharper Pen Image Consulting here is all about helping individuals and groups change their appearance, their behavior, and their communication, right? To augment, define, redefine, create, recreate, destroy, whatever it is you need to do. You have an image or a self-image issue or problem, that's what I'm here to do. So before I just go on and on forever, as I tend to do, we're going to go over here to my Instagram account and we're going to take a look here. I said this in the first video or two, that appearance for humanity is reality. And that's really because, it's just survival. If you've ever seen someone do the snake dance, and by snake dance, I mean they see a snake or they think they see a snake. Or maybe a spider or a mouse or a rat. Have you ever heard the sounds people make? Have you ever seen the reactions they have? That's how quickly people react to image. And the aversion in these instances can begin to tell you why. It's matters of cleanliness, hygiene, intelligence, trust, reliability, consistency. There's a number of reasons as to why image matters. Why, for instance, let's say in this case, the human eye can process images in 1/10 of a second. You can begin to see why the human eye needs to process images so quickly, because it's life or death, it's discern or perish. And maybe someone, in the case of people, we can assume, the book is as it reads. We can assume the cover is what you get. But we also know that's not the case when it comes to whatever it is people are showing or whatever it is they're hiding, right? And everyone does it, right? It's just a part of life. Which reminds me, pretty soon I'll be getting into a React video about Marlon Brando on acting, and acting is a way of life, because, people are often, stuck saying things they don't really mean, doing things they don't want to do, whatever it is. But it's about dealing with all these things, and this is where appearance, behavior, and communication mean everything, right? And this is the difference between, something like maybe even authenticity and professionalism, because professionalism does it anyway. Professionalism knows that things need to get done, and at the end of the day, push comes to shove. If no one else is there to do the work, if no one else is there to help, if no one else is there to be the role, someone's got to do it. Someone has to be responsible. But now I digress, right? We were talking about why the human eye processes images so fast, because it's life or death. So that brings us to point number 2 here, which I say wrote, first impressions are critical and appearance is important to everybody. Don't get in your own way. Right. So don't get in your own way in the sense that, I've seen so many people say, again, what's it matter? Don't judge a book by its cover. No one should care. And it's like maybe some of these people, they really are, socially, emotionally, not that maybe as intelligent as others because they don't realize how others are judging them. They don't realize that their very appearance and the fact that maybe they look lazy or they look like they rolled out of bed because maybe they're out in public in pajamas or they show up to work in pajamas or whatever it is, the things that people often do, right? That you can just see the kind of behavior they engage in, which communicates to you whether or not, well, according to your standards and values, that's, based on those communications, those signs, symbols, tones, all those things, right? That's where an individual begins to kind of see, do my values align? Does my and not just do my values align, but are my values even real? Because if they're a bit off and I was misjudging a situation wrong, let's say, or I was off about something, and it wasn't that someone persuaded me. It's like, oh, I see the truth, what I think to be the truth of this, and I think he's right. I think she's right, right? That's not a persuasion. That's someone changing my thought for me. And it's kind of funny how that works, back to the idea of reading, right? So it turns out it's important to judge books by their cover. Yes, like the second video discusses, it's good to defer judgment from there. And then, you can begin to actually study and see what's there. But again, if appearance is reality, then that means what you see, what you get. First impressions wind up being so critical because people see and observe quickly, they take in the information quickly, they're able to then make judgments and assumptions and even decisions that quickly. And I said it in the first video that within 5 to 10 seconds, people can make, a dozen or 2 dozen assumptions or beliefs about you based on what they did or didn't see or things even they thought they saw. Maybe I think just about everyone's been in that situation, right? You just happen to be at the wrong place when someone looks and then you get blamed for, right? It's basically a practical joke.
What's the idea? Hit me with tin cans. Oh.
We even know about this, these sorts of optical illusions when it comes to people and image and we see and what we don't see. But it matters because if you're not leveraging your best appearance, especially when it comes to first impressions, right? This is why everyone says, like, there's a reason why you've been hearing about this since forever, because they only happen once. They can make or break a sales, a marketing campaign, or anything else, and they can sabotage you if not wielded correctly. And I think it was an American businessman, I want to say maybe Jim Rohn or Brian Tracy, but he said something to the effect of he's seen countless men and women in his time, I think it was something like shoot themselves in the foot and then admire their work, right? Like, oh, I don't want to bother. I don't care. People shouldn't care. People shouldn't be shallow. They shouldn't judge me. And it's like, wait, you're trying to apply your subjective values objectively when in reality everyone's cared about appearance and they know it matters for attraction, promotion, getting anywhere in the world, making good impressions on people. So when I wrote don't get in your own way, that's kind of what I had in mind. That idea of if someone doesn't see the value, then these are the kind of people who complain about costs. They'll go, oh, but it's expensive to invest in something, right? It's expensive to pay for something so valuable. Oh, and then you go, okay, right. That's the standard then. You don't have a standard. You're not willing to invest time or energy or effort. And again, I mentioned the value because, they're completely missing the fact that the dividends pay out over a lifetime. And it's in terms of quality of life, right? Subjectively, your experience, what looking better, feeling better, doing better does for you, subjectively in your experience, that is unquantifiable and that's quality of life. But then there's other basic stuff like, hey, you learn how to play the game, you learn how to dress, you learn how to, leverage these things. And then from there, you can save hundreds and thousands in clothing because as anyone in the industry or as anyone who experiments with style, fashion, either as creators or advertisers, marketers. It's like they all know what it is to blow money on something and then later regret it or know that it wasn't worth it or realize they chose wrong because maybe they were evaluating the wrong criteria or they chose the wrong options or, more simply, maybe it is right tool for right job kind of thing. This brings us to point number 3. Image and self-perception are profound and reflects other people and the world. And by that, I mean, if I said it in the first video, it was time and space are physiological colors the eye makes, right? Everything I'm seeing is a reflection of my mind state and where I'm at, how I feel, right? So again, if appearance is reality, it usually tells you that people who look good feel good. And I can also tell you from anything from being attacked with compliments, like, you put on a suit, you go out there and you get compliment after compliment. And I get it. Not all guys are going to get the same results because no one is equal. No one is the same, right? So it just depends on who you are and what you're like and what you're into, but it also depends on what you need, because this is the point of our image consulting here at Sharper Pen. Is it's not about like that would be insanity to adhere to anyone and everyone's standards. It's your standards, your needs, your desires, right? Because this gets down to, is it working for you? How about those outcomes? Are you getting what's what you're wanting, what you supposedly want? Do you even want it if you're not willing to try something new because your way doesn't work, let's say, right? This is why, again, people pay marketers, image consultants, coaches. And back to our Aristotle quote, I bring him up because the wisest of the wise have always sought wisdom, counsel, and guidance from others. Even though at the end of the day, life is a personal affair, we absolutely rely on each other. And this is why I get said it earlier that consistent message, trust, reliability, what a good and clear image communicates, actually, this is exactly what matters most. So that idea that if what you see is a reflection of yourself, then that means you see more or less, what's the world look like to you? Is it beautiful or is it hostile? I get it. Bees have stingers, flowers have thorns, but it's beauty all the same, isn't it? Getting into past point number 3, right? Our extra note here. And I am saying the appearance communicates most everything about someone, whether they want it to or not. I'm basically pointing out that, again, like whether anyone realizes or not, whether anyone wants it to or not, how we dress, how we behave, and the words we use, and the tones we use, and the emotions we hide or don't hide, that we show or don't show, what we choose to hide, what we don't choose to hide, what we show, what we don't choose to show. Every last one of these details says something about us. And it's not that anyone necessarily can pick out any little one in real time or given time. It's the sum total affect, which goes back to the difference between, this is not persuasion, ladies and gentlemen. This is not the standards are already there. People already know what they aspire to when it comes to appearance. Everyone wants beauty. $1.7 trillion worth of it, apparently, right? That's what people ask for. That's what people want. That's what people produce. That's what they create. That's what they chase. So if we go back to the beginning, we can read it in good faith when someone says, don't judge a book by its cover, right? They mean well, but that's what people do. And they don't just judge it by the cover. They judge it by the author's name and how the author looks and the fonts and the name of the book itself and the colors used, and maybe they read the reviews. So technically they don't judge it by the cover. They judge it by the cover and everything that reflects the cover back to the viewer, right? The very marketer that brought the book's attention to the viewer, right? The viewer is seeing and judging all this on both conscious and or you could say articulated and unarticulated levels, right? Things they've thought about, things they haven't really sussed out, but if they took the time, they might go, oh yeah, that's what that is. That's why this affects me that way. That's why I love this. That's why this speaks to me. That's why this doesn't speak to me, right? Back to, language and dividing lines and marketing and sales, the difference of persuasion, arguably coercion, which I've never been a fan of, because again, you can only stuff letter boxes and email inboxes and harass people so much till everyone's sick of it, or you can market better and say, hey, here's what I have for you, here's what's good for, here's what I think works, here's what's bad, here's what's good. And this is the difference between, again, marketing and sales. This, here it is. The audience exists, the product exists. If what works for you, good, great. Maybe you're right to not choose me or my product or my service, or, me as a person, right? Let's say take two individuals who are dating maybe, and, one didn't do a good job of making a first impression, even though they both liked each other, supposedly. These things apply in so many ways in life, that it's really hard to account for it all. So it's no wonder that it's easily overwhelming. And I think it's really easy for people. This is why people focus on sales, let's say, because it's easy for people to shun something if they don't understand it. And this is common. You'll see this like with men in nice dress clothing and things like that, where it's like, again, if they don't understand the value, it's just easier to not bother to understand it. It's easier to just walk away, which is why everyone else who is already employing the value of just says, okay, no one's going to correct your mistakes for you. I've seen this time and time again in life, guys making all, and sometimes, I appreciate, because I appreciate the men who did it for me, and I sometimes do it for other men where, you kind of pull them aside and you point out something that's really, well, potentially fatal or any number of things. But a lot of times you'll see that no one ever stops you. No one ever stops anyone. They just let them make the mistakes. And then if you wonder why, probably because they're happy to let their competition defeat itself, right? Turns out to get ahead in life, to stand out even, you could say you don't have to even be that far above average. Just be a little bit more, go a little bit further than mediocrity, a little, whatever the bare minimum is. You can look around, and I look around in America, for instance, and it's like, yeah, I see men who dress like they do it 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, like they did when they were 10, 20, so, and again, it's not, depends on the person, depends what they're, what they're going for. But again, for most men who want to engage with the world and the people in it, for most men who want to get out there and climb these ladders and try their hands at their own visions of success or whatever else they've been sold, the tools are there for them, and these things matter and they are useful. So again, if your way hasn't been working, then welcome you to try another approach, because that's what life is all about, right? It's about seeing what's there. It's about discerning or perishing. It's about really refining and creating value out of the clay you've been given, right? Because what we have is what we have. I've mentioned this in the first few videos, right? Everyone uses what they have to their advantage, and then they further augment and define, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with admitting when you've been wrong, and there's nothing wrong when admitting something I believed was false. It's happened to me plenty of times in life, right? Anyone else who's largely coherent and sensible, anyone else who speaks sense and can articulate themselves and what they mean and why they mean it, can tell you exactly why these things are, just like I am here in these videos. The value thereof, the very premise begins to, I guess you could say, like, if we're all fish kind of blind to the fact that we're in water, the point of this video is stepping back to say, hey, look at this water. So now that we've created these standards and we've used these various symbols and tones, we've created dividing lines, right? You can see this is for these people over here, and shun the non-believers, right? There's no time for anything else, right? Whether you're the salesman or the marketer, you don't waste your time chasing dead-end leads. Everybody knows there's audience you want, there's audience you don't want. Everyone knows there's clientele you want, clients you don't want. And I know this from even working in environmental assessment and consulting for years. It's just the truth of the matter. Some people are more headaches than they're worth, and your appearance will easily reveal this in short order. Also, your behavior and your communication. And it's often funny, again, how fish are blind to water, right? But again, this has been Sharper Pen Image Consulting. I'm Zach Markowski, talking about image, appearance. I hope what you've heard here is useful to you. If not, at least fascinating, kind of stirs the passions a little bit even. That would be nice too. And I hope you have a good day. So there it is. The long and short of it, really, right? Our behavior or our appearance does communicate everything about us, whether we want it to or not. And this gets down to the very bottom, Sharper Pen Image Consulting right here. I'm saying beyond mere style is design. Your best appearance will help you arrive where you want and need to go in life. And that's basically what I just recapped. Whether maybe you found some methods that work, but you're looking for more tools in your arsenal. Maybe you don't even know where to start. Maybe you need a loose guide to things like appearance, image, style, communication, men's or women's fashion, dress, what maybe works best for what markets and fields, right? Depending on what you're into or what you're going into job wise or what you're wanting to break into. All these things are just matters of research and education and then trial and error, practice, and discerning what works and what doesn't. And that's based on, again, affect, because proper affect seems to line up with proper effect, getting the outcomes you want, right? So style is just looking good for looking good's sake. Design is actually having a plan and knowing what to do and how to get there, because if you have a goal, you can kind of reverse engineer your way backwards therefrom, right? Anyway, Sharper Pen Image Consulting. Again, I'm Zach Markowski. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your attention. Love you if you're my audience. Subscribe, comment, whatever, however you want to engage. Email me, contact me for a consultation. I'll be having more videos on these kinds of things too, including also the next few will be about the B and C factors, which is behavior specifically, primarily, and communication. Thanks again for everything. And remember, shun the non-believers. Have a good one. Don't judge a book by its cover, but at the same time, that's exactly what people do. And, maybe they don't realize what they're saying, because they're basically saying stop resisting, right? Don't, or maybe even gaslighting, right? Deny what you're seeing with your own eyes, because then I begin to see, like, maybe this is judgmental and maybe I'm judging a book by the dumb things it says. But isn't that exactly how we judge books? Is this useful? Is this beneficial? Did I want this? Did it help me get the outcomes I want? Did it make me question the way I live my life? Did it give me a better why and how? Did it help me in any way? Did it help others? Did it bring me any closer to my objectives? Did it expand my mind? Did it blow my mind?
Shun the non-believer. Shun.